Hi everyone, it's Michelle and welcome to my channel, The Book Orchard. Oh gosh, I've read quite a bit already in March and I kind of felt like I wanted to share some of it with you guys, like right off the bat. So the first book I read that I wanted to chat to you guys about is The Yellowbird Sings by Jennifer Rosner. This story is about a mom and a little girl in the Second World War. They are Jewish, so obviously they are in hiding. And the story kind of opens up where they're hiding in sort of, well, not exactly a neighbor, but somebody that they know. They're hiding in their barn under a whole bunch of hay. So obviously they have to be very, very quiet, and they develop their own little secret like sign language and way of talking to each other. And this little girl is incredibly musical. The whole family's kind of like dipped into the musical world, just through instruments and creating their own music. And this little girl is almost like a little prodigy. So she has this little chick, which it talks about, the yellowbird sings, and she has this little yellowbird, and the little yellowbird like sings some songs for her, and this kind of puts her into this little world that makes her feel safe. What astounded me about this is that as a mom, I completely related to how much this mom was willing to give up and do in order to keep her daughter safe. The journey kind of embarks upon this, obviously it does say obviously in the description that at some point this mom has to decide whether this little girl is safer with her or somewhere else, in someone else's care. And she ends up deciding that obviously they have to part ways. And the manner in which this is done and how they try and meet up at some point, and it was just phenomenal for the perspective of, you literally got it from the perspective of the little girl, which I thought was completely unique. But you also got it from the mom's perspective, and I love that because you do get war stories from the perspective of a child sometimes, but to have that connection between mom and daughter, I really enjoyed that. I loved how they really tried to hold on to each other, but they didn't let go of life, or they really tried to kind of embrace love as they went through the war as well. It was heartbreaking. I had the fair few tearful moments. I had a few shock moments too, just with what this mom went through and what she was, like I say, prepared to go through in order to keep a child safe was just absolutely phenomenal. And for that, I'll definitely remember it. I think it was a very interesting read. It's probably not one of the most phenomenal, World War II stories I've ever read, but the perspective was incredibly unique on how it jumped from mom to daughter, and how mom was feeling about certain things and how the little girl was feeling about things that mom had done in the situation, while they try to hold on to normalcy, but there was no normalcy. I think it was well crafted. I think it was well written. It came across beautifully, and the ending was so sweet. It was well worth reading for that journey, for what I learned through that. Yeah, lovely. Really enjoyed this one, for its unique perspective, specifically. So I jumped out of that and thought, no, I need something completely different now. And oh my gosh, did I dive in. I dived into Serpents and Dove by Shelby Maheron. And I have to tell you guys, I honestly didn't know what to expect. I mean, the back of this literally says, bound as one to love, honor, or burn. A witch and a witch hunter thrust into holy matrimony. There was only one way such a story could end: a stake and a match. And I've come across this on BookTube. I've seen some reviews on it. It has looked very good. It's had some interesting reviews. I didn't know I don't know why, but I didn't know what to expect. I kind of opened this book and thought, well, this is going to be a fluff piece with a bit of romance and it'll be good. And I don't know what I was expecting, but this was completely not what I was expecting. I found the beginning part threw me into this world that I have to admit it, I found quite enrapturing. I enjoyed the circumstance, the situation that they were each in, how they met. I thought their meet cute was awesome. And And what I really, oh gosh, I love the character of Lou. So if you guys don't know what this is about, you know, a little bit more about what this is about, obviously the main character's name is Lou. It's very ambiguous considering the back, but Lou is an incredibly strong, confident, private, but incredibly funny, you know, young girl or woman that just takes life by the, you know, takes the bull by the horns of life and just kind of gets on with it. And she treasures every single moment. And at some point in the beginning, I kind of was like, I think I see where this is going. And there were one or two surprises that actually hit what I was expecting. I don't know if I maybe just had a cue on that one, or I'm not quite sure. But it was beautifully crafted. I loved this. I laughed so much during this book. I absolutely loved some of the things that happened. I loved how fiery she is. She's like a real firecracker and a hellcat. And the main character, the other main character, Reed, as you go from one perspective to the next, it's a two-perspective book. And I felt like Reed was completely unequipped to handle her, which I have to be honest, I absolutely loved. So it is an enemies to lovers sort of story, and I loved it. I can't wait for the sequel. I've ordered the second one. It's coming through. I see the third one's coming out in August. I am beyond excited. Whoops. I have spoken to a friend of mine about this. I sent her some snaps and she was like, and then I suddenly realized, oh gee, I'm spoiling this for her, deleted them. And you know, she came back to me with a little frowny face while on our chat. And I said to her, I'm so sorry, I sent you snippets, but I don't want to spoil for you. And I said, so do you want the back? And she was like, yes. So she's reading it, her mom's reading it. Like, this is just brilliant. I've really enjoyed it. I saw on Goodreads a few people kind of turned around and said that they felt the magic system was, explained very poorly. It is a little confusing. There are bits there that are very, very vague. But I personally ended the story feeling like, yes, it was vague. Yes, maybe, the magic system could have been crafted or explained a little bit more. But I felt like it was enough. I felt like I got enough to understand what it was about. I absolutely adored the characters. I think the adventure story was incredible. I literally couldn't put this down. I stayed awake like almost pretty much like until early hours of the morning reading this book just to kind of get to this point to finish it, because I just, oh gosh, it had me enraptured. So highly recommend this one. I think it was absolutely fantastic. If you guys like an enemies to lovers sort of trope, or if you enjoy a character who absolutely loves life and is a strong female character lead, I think this was just phenomenal, and it will definitely be a book for you. So The Fifth Wave by Rick Yancey is a series. It's got 3 books. Oh dear, I'm losing things here. So it goes from The Fifth Wave to The Lost Star to, I'm getting very lost here. The Fifth Wave, The Infinite Sea, and then The Lost Star. So this series of books is, I'm not gonna lie, I got drawn into this purely because of the movie. I thoroughly enjoyed. I love I think it's Chloe Moretz who plays it, and I enjoyed the vibe of the movie, but of course it was a couple of years ago, so I've actually rewatched it since then. But of course I did it after I read the first book. I really feel like they kept it on cue though. Like, I was super impressed with how they adapted the book to a movie. I think they really kept it true to the story and true to the book, which doesn't happen like that often. So I really, really enjoyed that. It goes, obviously it has some different perspectives in the beginning. Your main characters, you've got Cassie, and you have Evan, and then you've also got you've got Cassie's like love interest from when she was at school. I'm trying to think of his name now, but yeah, if you guys, I don't know if you know anything about the series, but basically like aliens come, it's a science fiction thing. Aliens come to the earth and they hit the earth. They hit humans via 5 waves. And the first wave is powers out. They hit like with a massive electromagnet. And then the second one is like surfs up. All the coastal cities kind of get demolished. The third one is pestilence. They spread a disease via the birds and a lot of people die. Really, really gross. And then the fourth wave is silencers. So they actually awaken like secret aliens that are inside people that have already been planted. You know, they awaken them, and then these silencers who look completely human are targeting other humans and killing them off. And this kind of just means that nobody trusts each other because they don't know if you're a silencer or not. So it kind of goes through this whole scenario. Cassie's obviously got a mom, a dad, a baby brother, or a little brother. He's quite a bit little, you know, much smaller than her, younger than her. He's like 5. And they obviously try and stay together. Her mom dies quite quickly and quite early on in the book. And then it's her brother, her dad, and herself. And at some point it ends up being her brother gets, you know, taken to this camp, and she's got to try and get back to her brother. And it's this whole journey. She meets a silence on the way. Like, you know, it's quite an interesting take. I love the take. Like, it's just a completely different perspective on how aliens can come down and completely swamp us and, you know, kind of get us off the earth. So it was an interesting take because you don't really have any that you see. Yeah, and then I wanted to kind of, I've always wondered, you know, when they do these movies and they just do one, you're like, no, even if the movie sucks, I want to see what happens after that. You know, where do they go from there? Anyway, the second book from that one is obviously The Infinite Sea. Infinite Sea, you end up with an extra character in here, and this is sort of like a middle ground. So what was interesting here is obviously, you know, everything's kind of come to a crux. There might be some spoilers here. I do apologize to anyone. But they kind of hit this crux where they are obviously all in hiding. The guys who have all escaped, they're in hiding. And they have got to figure out how things go. So circumstances have changed. They're now looking at the 5th wave. And they're looking at, you know, the 5th wave initially was like, you know, humans kind of on humans and how they do that. And there's an interesting different take on this, on how they use little kids. This was a little shocking, I'm not gonna lie, but very interesting, again, the take that kind of happens through this one. So we get a new character in this book, which kind of causes different consequences and leads the pack on this new sort of journey on trying to figure out how to kind of go along. Dynamics change, you know, certain... Gosh, I don't want to spoil for you guys. How do I not spoil this? I'm trying to think how not to have a spoiler in this one. But at the end of the day, they've got to figure out, right, where do we go from here? And this is this interim on, now we've escaped. Now we kind of know what situation we're in. Where do we go from here? Like, you know, and they've got to move along to the next one. And then the 3rd book in the series is The Last Star. This one confused me. I don't know if it was just me. If it confused you guys, let me know as well. Like, I got it, but it was also vague enough that I got it, and vague enough that I was like, this can be like led to interpretation. So this one very much kind of went on the why. These aliens obviously came down. This is how they did it, but why did they do it this way? How did it end up working this way? Like, what was their goal in doing it this way? Why was it so cruel? Why was it so prolonged, you know? Why were they trying to get rid of humans in this specific way? So that was quite interesting to see the kind of take on that. I feel, however, that it ended right. The way it started out in the 1st book, you could actually, when I didn't see it happening whatsoever, so it wasn't, you know, it was quite a surprise to me, but until you kind of hit that point where you know that's what's going to happen. But like, when it started to hit that point, it made sense, and I felt like it ended on a really good note. Like, I felt good. I felt like that's the way it was supposed to end. It made a lot of sense to me in the manner in which it ended, and, you know, who was left behind and how things kind of were processed with them being left behind. Yeah, it was interesting. I don't quite know how to explain that one. For me, is it an amazing series? Wow, like blow my mind? No. Was it worth reading? Yeah, I enjoyed the take. I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the people. You know, at the end of the day, it was quite a cute young adult science fiction, you know, with the concepts and the way everything was put together. I think there was a lot of thought behind the things that happened. The second book, that the character that kind of came in and went, I felt like he really played a fantastic role, and it was really enjoyable to read and to see, and it just kind of reminds you on how people can be very human and very compassionate even in face. I love stories like that. I love how humanity kind of comes back through, especially when there's stories like this that are quite hard, or it's in a hard time, or it's in the middle of war, or anything like that. At the end of the day, we are human, and I love stories that display that humanity. So yes, I enjoyed the series. Will I read it again? I might. Not a definite. It's definitely not one of my absolute favorites, but worth the read. I enjoyed it. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye.